So first of all, let me welcome everyone, the speakers and all the audience to this webinar on Building the Multipolar World, 10 Years of the Belt and Road Initiative. It's a co-sponsored initiative of Friends of Socialist China, which is a platform based on supporting the People's Republic of China and promoting understanding of Chinese socialism, and the International Manifesto Group, which was created as a discussion group at the start of the pandemic to discuss the unfolding of the multiplying broader economic, social, and political and international crises. It was clearly accelerating, and though our work and its relevance have only increased as the world has since been plunged into many more crises up to and including the horrific events still unfolding in Gaza. My name is Radhika Desai. I convene the Manifesto Group. And I would like to also add that we have a very large number of co-sponsors signifying to the importance of this event. They include Connolly Books, Critical Theory Workshop, the Geopolitical Economy Research Group, Geopolitical Economy Report, the Hampton Institute, the International Action Center, Iskra Press, Kosacho News, Peace, Land and Bread, Pivot to Peace, and Veterans for Peace China working groups. So please check out all these groups and their websites. I think perhaps the best way to introduce this, and Professor Zhang has already anticipated some of what I'm going to say, but the best way to introduce this webinar is to point out that humanity has never before stood at a starker choice. And the Belt and Road Initiative, as the flagship program of Socialist China's international engagement, with its inclusive and developmental goals, an ever-expanding circle of participants, beneficiaries, and friends, represents one of the two stark choices. The other choice is the ever-shrinking US-led exclusionary coalition based on illusory distinctions between an in-group that call themselves democracies, when in fact they resemble little more than plutocracies, and an out-group that are labeled autocracies and dehumanized in preparation for all sorts of assaults, economic, political, sanctions, military, etc., no matter how much development they bring their people. The world is being forced to make this choice by the United States, but the very actions that the US is undertaking to buttress its definition of the choice is making a no-brainer choice for the world, not just to reject the US alternative, but increasingly to fight it. Nothing illustrates this better than the juxtaposition that we witnessed in early October of President Biden aiding the most brutal assault on the Palestinian people ever, and President Xi celebrating the 10th anniversary of the BRI with so many leaders in attendance, and by announcing the lines along which it will now unfold. For the past months, the people of Gaza have been victims of a brutal and unrelenting and entirely illegal barrage of collective punishment, which is being waged by Israel and supported by the United States. Thousands of Palestinians, nearly 10,000, have now lost their lives, and overwhelmingly, they are women and children. I believe 40% of the victims are to children. Gazans are being deprived of that most critical of human necessities, namely water. They are being starved, they are being forced into unsanitary conditions and disease, and deprived even of the most basic medical help when both disease and injury are vastly increasing the need for both. The images and facts of the injury and grief simply deaden the mind. Still, the United States will not call for a ceasefire, intoning the mantra of Israel's right to defend itself, and even defeating United Nations Security Council resolutions asking us it merely to pause the fighting rather than just end it. The vast majority of the world looks on in horror. It asks if the Palestinians do not have the right to resist the increasingly brutal occupation of their lands, which, by the way, in international law, they do. And the world demands an immediate ceasefire and a negotiated solution to the 75-year-old conflict caused by the Western-backed occupation of Palestine. The current war is which the US is increasingly helping in Israel aggravate, is only the latest in a series of wars the United States has either initiated or provoked or aggravated in a long and bloody history of seeking to subordinate other countries with a one-size-fits-all policy paradigm. It is dressed up in the rhetoric of human rights and democracy, but its real purpose is to open up other economies for the benefit of American and Western corporations to expand their capacities to exploit these countries. It is a long and bloody history, therefore, of imperialism. On the other side of the Eurasian landmass, President Xi celebrated 10 years of the Belt and Road Initiative, through which China has expanded development cooperation around the world, built infrastructure, supported a green transition, offered capital, skills, technology to countries around the world on the basis of win-win, mutually agreed cooperation among countries that are, this is most important, free to choose their own path of development and increasingly doing so. And President Xi also added in his remarks, also referred to 8 different ways in which the Belt and Road Initiative will continue to expand the future, which includes increasing connectivity via air, road, sea, increasing the possibilities of digital technology and the availability of e-commerce, smart and small livelihood projects, and many, many other things. So in this context, the West's relentless efforts to argue that the BRI and other initiatives that China has undertaken are just like, if not worse than, the imperialism that they have inflicted on the world for the past several centuries, is simply exposed as completely false. They argue that China is engaging in debt trap diplomacy, does not invest in industry, but is only interested in resources, does not create employment, but only brings his own workers. All these accusations have simply been shrugged off, not just by China, but by the world, which is joining China in increasing numbers. So today, to help us to understand how the BRI is building the multipolar world, rejecting unipolarity and hegemonism, as China rightly calls it, and reacting to the increasingly repulsive character of the US's world role, as represented by the suffering of Gazans, is we have a really interesting panel, a very wonderful panel, and you've already heard the first extremely important intervention. So we will now go to the second one.